All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. As today we talk about Niners wide receiver Jacob Cowing, and we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. And they do run out, so get there early, get some brisket chili. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're at 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, on the Monterey Peninsula. Thanks to Anthony Catania. He's at 831-521-5264, and he's a great follow on Instagram at Sharp Corners 831 on the gram. All right. We're also brought to you by Claudaddy Arcades. We'll talk about them in just a moment. But first, let's talk a little bit about one of the guys who has been fantastic in 49er OTAs, and that is Jacob Cowing, the Niners' second-year wide receiver. And what a great story Cowing is, man. I really enjoy Jacob Cowing. I enjoy talking to him. He's a good guy. And I think he's got a really bright future. And, man, last year was a little bit of a disappointment. He was a little underpowered, needed to gain strength. This year he came back, he put on that strength, and he looks like a totally different player. But let's talk about Cowing and where he's from and his origins and this and that, and we'll get into what we've seen lately. But Jacob Cowing was born in Phoenix, Arizona. So he's an Arizona kid. Went to Maricopa High School there. And was not, not a heavily recruited guy out of high school. He was only a 2-star high school recruit. He went to UTEP out of high school, and he spent 2019, 2020, 2021 all there at UTEP. So 3 seasons, and became first-team All-Conference USA. Led UTEP to a bowl game, which was really amazing, because they hadn't been to a bowl game in a long time. So he led them to a bowl game. And then he transferred to University of Arizona and played 2022 and 2023 with the U of A Wildcats. And his senior season, 90 catches, 848 yards, 13 touchdowns. Niners took him in the 4th round with pick number 135. He was a 4-year starter in college. He made 52 college starts. Then he went to the combine, and he looked good in the combine. Ran 4.38 on the 40, 1.54 on the 10-yard split. Showed lower body explosiveness with 36-inch vertical. Showed pretty decent strength with 13 reps of 225, which is really good for a guy that was under 180 pounds at the time. Played well at the end of his collegiate career. Played really well in their territorial cup game against ASU, and then had 2 touchdowns against Oklahoma in the Alamo Bowl. So he was really good at the end of his career. 2024 with the Niners, he played 15 games. He appeared in 15 games. He had 4 catches for 80 yards. He had a long of 41 yards. He also had 1 fumble on a punt return. So his story is really interesting. He in high school, he had his young son, Chase Henry Cowing. And while, he became a father at the age of 18 with his girlfriend, Taylor, and he welcomed his young son, Chase, to the world. And he had to be away. He wasn't there when Chase was born, and he wasn't there when Chase said his first words because he was miles away at UTEP. But he transferred to U of A because Taylor and Chase were living in Chandler, Arizona, so he wanted to be near his son and his girl, and so it's he moved. That's why he transferred. That's why he left UTEP. He loved UTEP, but he transferred to Arizona so he could be closer to his baby. He's got November 16th, 2019. That's the date that his son was born. And his son's name, Chase, in script. This is tattooed in Roman numerals, November 16th, 2019, on his left forearm. And, I've talked to him about it, and he's like, man, my son really added to my motivation. It's funny. His college coach at UTEP said that Jacob Cowing kind of reminded him of Tyler Lockett, the longtime Seattle Seahawk. And I can see that because they're both small guys, but good route runners, kind of tougher than the typical small receiver. His head coach at Arizona, Jed Fish, basically recruited him to Tucson. And Cowing chose U of A over ASU, over Florida, over Louisville, over LSU, Ole Miss, South Carolina, Texas Tech, Va Tech. He was much more heavily recruited out of UTEP after he had success there. But Jedd Fisch was the only guy who recruited him that asked about his son, that asked him about himself. Everybody else was all football. But Jed showed a real interest in Jacob, the man, Jacob, his life, and his son, and so he chose Arizona, because he had that personal vibe and that personal touch with Jedd Fisch. So he went there. And, what he showed at Arizona is that, he's not the biggest guy. He doesn't have a huge catch radius, but he's a very willing blocker. He was really used differently in the two different spots. At UTEP, he was a vertical wide receiver. He made plays down the field, much more of a downfield threat. At U of A, they used him underneath a lot. There was a lot of yards after the catch. He was excellent in Arizona's quick game. Really sudden, really quick. He's highly competitive. And, he showed that he had really strong hands this offseason. So year one with the Niners, he's probably 170 pounds. And he had a hard time keeping his feet. He was fall down on a couple of the punt returns. He had the one muffed punt. And he just didn't show any of the strength that he needed. He needed to go from 170 to 185, and I think he got mostly there in the offseason. He definitely put on some good weight. You could see it in his route running. You could see it in his strength. You could see it in his ability to run through contact. You could see it in his ability to change direction in a crowd. This guy's a lot stronger this year. Now, I would say he's probably about 180 pounds. Probably went from like 168 to about 180. He's probably put on 10, 12 pounds of muscle, and it really shows. And this summer, last year, a lot of the balls he was catching, he was kind of working back to the line of scrimmage. This year, almost everything that I saw him catch in the OTAs and in the minicamp were where he was running down the field. And Purdy or Mordecai or Mac Jones hit him in stride down the field. And there's a lot more, instead of working back to the football, they're using him. He's getting the separation, and he's making plays running down the field. But really what I've noticed is he's got way, way stronger in the upper body, and it really shows itself in his hands. I'm going to share the screen on this one and let you take a look at what I thought was one of the real highlights of minicamp. And this is Mac Jones hitting Jacob Cowing on here it is right here. Here's Mac Jones at practice, and he hits Jacob Cowing on a little corner route, and he didn't put a lot of air under it, kind of threw a laser, and this ball is tailing away from Cowing, and yet watch him pull it in. This is a very impressive catch. It's the kind of catch that he didn't make a year ago. And just looking at him making this catch, you can see the upper body development. He's put on some upper body weight. Arms are much stronger. You can see, the ripples in the forearms. You can see the strength in the upper body. This guy's put on probably 10, 12 pounds of muscle, and he's put it on almost all in the upper body. And this kind of laser, and where he catches it and gets both feet down, this was a great catch. This was a phenomenal catch. It's hard to tell in this angle, but there wasn't a lot of loft on this ball. This ball was kind of a laser. Sometimes the corner route, they'll put a little air under it. Not this one. This was a kind of a laser corner, and he caught it, got both feet down, and he caught it with ease. And if you talk to the people around the Niners, Jacob Cowing and Ricky Pearsall have spent a ton of time this spring working on their route running, working on their hands, working on their game at the facility. And you're seeing it right here. You're seeing it right there. Great catch there by Cowing. So this is kind of what the guy is becoming. I think he's going to be one of the guys to really watch for this year in training camp. Stronger than he was a year ago, more confident than he was a year ago, better knowledge of the offense than he had a year ago. Now you have no Debo, no Ayuk. for probably the first couple months. There's huge opportunity here for a receiver who's ready to step in and make plays to get that opportunity. And Cowing is that guy, and he's ready to step in. He's ready to make plays. So, big fan of Jacob Cowing, and I think you're going to see a much improved player from year 1 to year 2. You're going to see a guy who I think is going to step in and really create that separation that Niner receivers struggled to create a year ago. So thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of The Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. As you see on the screen, you see Claw Daddy Arcade's logo. They're a great follow on Instagram at claw_daddy_arcades to find a location near you. They've got a brand new location opening in the South Bay at Capitola Mall later on this year. And then later on this year as well, they'll open another location at Visalia Mall down in the Central Valley. Claw Daddy Arcades. Once again, thanks to Claw Daddy for sponsoring The Krug Show. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting The Krug Show on YouTube.